Whether it is you, me, or anyone who is in the market, if you see something and say, okay, I've seen this before and I know how that turned out, then you should not be neglecting this, because if you do, then you may soon regret that. Why? Because the price action gives you what historically happens when these kind of patterns enter in the market. This is price moving based on how investors are reacting. So now it's not only technicals, fundamentals are kind of aligning. Except the US, you see codes coming out and giving them proper clarity, saying NFTs, they are not that security type of stuff. It's a property. So now you can own it. It's yours. If you can buy, own it, keep it, that's all good. So going back to the technicals, this is the altcoin market, and from last 170 days, we have not done much. We are still ranging inside that. But RSI does suggest you something, right? Combining that with the MACD and the price, it gives you a hint of where we are kind of headed. Then you kind of zoom in to actually see, okay, does that really make sense? Can we observe some reversal signals in a short term? You ask yourself what this pattern suggests and how this can turn out. And then that's the altcoin market. You go to the Bitcoin market to see, like, okay, does the entire market as a whole agree on that point? Bitcoin is forming this pattern which is almost nearing that end. You may have another month by the time you break higher or lower. We don't know which direction it's headed, but look at the RSI, look at the MACD. Which direction do you think they are going? These actually give you a great idea of what's coming in the next 2 months, next 3 months, because this is a 3-day chart talking you through what literally is happening. So now we will actually go in and detail in different assets so we know what we can look at and anticipate what can the market do for us. This is the scientific investor family, where the normal common retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of the world. Now, as we zoom in and look at this, yes, this particular range, we are trading inside this range. Great. That's a horizontal trading range inside which we are trending. So, given this breakout is still valid, you are ranging here, which if you actually measure properly from this move up with the engulfing candle here until this upside, that was 70%. Great. Now, if you actually take in that we dropped only 26% and we are still ranging inside that, that for me is a healthy start for a new trend. Because if you are observing any kind of pattern, it trend like this. So when you are here at this bottom range, don't go and say, okay, we are coming all the way back down. Because if you haven't retested this area, you cannot actually say we are going down. If you are here, you still have a possibility that it may bounce. But if you break below, now yes, you are looking at this level of support to hold. If that does not hold, okay, the hell is breaking loose. So you move to the negative side of things. But right now, look what's happening. You zoom in and ask that question like, okay, we just saw some pattern here, which gave you a hint of, okay, there is a possible bullish momentum coming into the price action. Great. Then what followed was another reiteration of same, a bullish engulfing candle. Then what happened? The price continued higher. You go back and you see different patterns which you will recognize, and you will say like, okay, these were bullish signals which the market actually gave me before it actually went up towards a resistance. Now, it will depend whether it's breaking through a resistance or not, but right now, as you zoom in, you cannot ignore the fact that this is a bullish move. This is a bullish pattern. Great. With that in the market, if you are negative, now that's completely up to you. But As we zoom in, say this is a 4-hour chart. This is kind of short term, but if you are looking at the pattern which the price is making, it was inside this channel, but it changed its direction. As it started changing the direction, what's important here on that short term perspective is that you had this level which was acting as a resistance. If you see this level of support here, which started acting as a resistance, you are now breaking through that to the upside, which for me is really bullish. So you don't go negative at that point. Now, can you retest and bounce? That's completely fair, and usually that's how the market works. And if you agree on that point, that we may have a retest and we will still go higher because we are starting to trend up, one thing for short term, what you can expect tomorrow morning. Now, this is short term, ultra short term, so the probability would be less. But look at how your moving average is trending. You kind of see the 20-day moving average for XRP trending higher, the price coming back to the moving average and bouncing, which is actually a good news, because when you go back on a daily, you note that the price action right now is showing you the 50-day moving average is about to cross the 200-day moving average to the upside. Now, for medium to long term, that's super bullish, but we have noticed the fact that whenever a short term moving average crosses the long term one, you kind of slow down or start a correction. Last time, when the 20-day moving average crossed the 50, you were close to the top, you slowed down there. Great. Now you zoom all the way back down to see whether the opposite is true. You go look at this one. We saw that it is crossing to the downside. We were already at the bottom. Great. Now we understand a point, right? Now the question is, okay, when we had golden cross or death cross, which is like 250, we'll remove the 20-day moving average from here. You got this death cross, the so-called death cross here, and just after that, if you see what happened here in the price, that's really bullish monster, which is an engulfing candle, because prior to that, you already got that here as a signal that something is changing, and you just reconfirm that another time, which is like a double bottom. So most people were expecting the price to go further lower, but the signal and the pattern suggested that no, it may not, and then it started going up. But if you look the number of days taken here, it is really important. Now you go back to the top and you can put the number of days here, so you get a better perspective. In between these, it's like 44 days. So if you are in this market for medium to long run, these kind of fluctuations does not impact you. As soon as you made the golden cross here, which we'll put in yellow, great, you will actually notice that we were close to the top, or we already was at that range. Then you slowly came back down. Now, what's the argument here? Am I saying it's gonna come down all the way? No, not really. Because you do have support zones which you have to keep an eye on. Say this 1.42, we have not breached that yet. And on the short term scenario, as we break higher, it gives us more confidence that, okay, if you are at this point, say 0.46, 0.48, whatever, if you are dropping in between, you may get supported by 0.42. So you have room to accommodate that drop and still be above the support and hold on to this particular breakout. So remaining inside that is really important, right? We go into different assets to actually see how they reacted. It's something which we all want to keep an eye on, right? We'll just clear this off and give you a perspective of what happened. Say this is dent, and you are looking at a reversal signal here. That's a pattern. Then you're looking at price action where you say that's a bullish engulfing candle. Great. Now, you are looking at the price and saying like, okay, why did not this engulfing candle ended up in an upside day, right? That's a big question, because at that time you see the 20-day moving average was neutral and then it started trending lower. So the price was still, look at this, the price was still here. It did not go down, and it was even moving upside on a daily basis, but the 20-day moving average was going to the downside. When the price action changed is here. The 20-day moving average became neutral from the negative and started turning to the upside. That's when you notice that the price action is starting its bullish momentum. Even though it's already bullish, the momentum comes in after that. So now you go on and you want to add on the 20-day moving average, 21 moving average, and ask that question like, okay, right now what we are observing is something we just talked. We were going up, we are now neutral, and most likely you may still have that possibility of coming to 0.42, 0.41. Next big support range would be this level, which would be 0.39. Fine, we see that acting as a range or a zone of support for XRP. But what we really want to observe here is that at this point you are looking at the 20-day moving average, but at the same time you do have higher time frame structures, which is like the 50-day moving average and the 20-day moving average acting together. So now you go back here and look what they were doing back then. You saw that the price reached and tested the 50-day moving average, and you crossed, the 20 crossed the 50 here to the upside. So that was bullish. That really was bullish, because soon after that, 20 went on further to cross the 200-day moving average. So even though you have this dynamics playing out here, you actually got this continuation pattern. Now, you're actually going back into XRP and asking this question, okay, here we were doing this. We were going up, we slowed down, we were coming back down. Then you cross the 50, the 20-day moving average crossed the 50. But not only that, you have done that previously, but here you went on further to cross the 200-day moving average, which is something similar you're observing here. In between, you do a lot of volatility, up, down, cross to the upside, downside, like snakes running around. But it is here where you see the major momentum, which is the 20-day moving average crossing the 200-day moving average. You can take a vertical line and drop it here, so we know what happened, because most people think, okay, it did not change much. But if you really go on a daily chart, okay, now that was so bad. Yeah, zooming back in, if you really look at that, that was here. Now we were observing the cross on a 3-day chart, and this is a daily chart to show you that even at that time, you put the line here, even at that time, you were not pumping. Go back to the 3-day chart and look for that horizontal line. You will notice that as soon as you're crossing there, you already got the idea that what is forward. Now, then you look at the 50-day moving average, and you see when the 50 is crossing the 200, the price actually slowed down. It did not drop much here. So even though usually, most likely we see these drops, here we did not see much of correction to the downside. Yes, we actually got a little bit, 40%. Now, when you look at 40% and say, okay, XRP did not do that much, understand that was after a 7x move. Here, right now, we don't have that. We have moved like 70%. So for that kind of a move, you don't expect too much people to take a lot of profit, because they don't have a lot of profit, basically, right? So they are still here holding to their supply without dropping that into the market. So the supply is not increasing in the market, which kind of makes sense, right? If that makes sense to you, now you come back onto the macro point saying, okay, I do get that understanding of that. The price action does these stuff very rarely, where you observe the 20 and 50-day moving average cross to the upside of the 200-day moving average. Now, this is something which is really important to note, because as they cross to the downside here, you can actually note, okay, here to be precise, you can note that the trend was ensured that now it's bearish. You were going down, 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 and the confirmation of you becoming completely bullish for that wave structure happened here. Great. In between, we all had this range of resistance for XRP, precisely speaking, the huge range, which a lot of people were finding hard to move and break. Right now, it is changing. The direction is changing. You are slowly going back to the upside. So this one, breaking to the upside, will have a positive ability to reach towards the range of 200-day moving average. Now, what we want to see is on a daily, we cross to the upside. We are almost at that level. Then we continue the same momentum to do that on a 3-day and then on a weekly. So on a weekly, what we really want to observe here is the 20-day going back up to the 200-day moving average. That will give us the idea of, yes, things are changing and they are changing really fast. Because as soon as you do that move, now your 50-period moving average don't have to go way down. It will slowly reverse from that level because it's not 100 or 200, it's 50. It's closer compared to 200-day moving average. So you are going to see price action changing if you have the patience to see how things change in next 30 days, next 50 days. But when you go back into the market and then you see like, okay, there is a lot of coins which are moving, you can see opportunities. But some of them, when you see like, okay, monstrous gains, you don't see much money in there. You need to enter with $1. What do I mean by that? If you only have few dollars of liquidity in the market, then you shouldn't be putting thousands of dollars into that because you are not going to get that back anytime soon. And if the project goes bust, that's done. But then you go into the market and you see like a lot of different coins are moving up, down, up, down, up, down. You don't understand what's happening. But if you break those down, some of them are now starting to trend higher. Some of them are maintaining a breakout, retesting that, and trying to bounce. And we are actually doing an Ask for TA session for a lot of different assets. So you now know which asset broke the support, which asset broke to the upside, the resistance. So the ones who broke to the upside is going to have more momentum as you see the market bouncing here, because the market right now shows you that it is bouncing, but you don't have too much room here, being frank. Once you break this level, that's when you're saying, okay, now we can go all the way up to here. In between, you'll have this range as a resistance, but now you have space to the upside before you reach this level of first primary resistance, and then you break for this move. Now, that's something which we are waiting for some time, but you need the patience to say, okay, that wait is worth it when you take your profits. So guys, if you like the video, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I'll meet you on the next video. Bye-bye.